compare it with this personal way of existence in individuals. Of course, we all have like these borders, but it is precisely in this crossing the border where we find like our personal identity. So it is not staying being isolated, but going to meet the other. And I think there are all icons and all these interactive images. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, the theme of borders is big now. I mean, you know, borders of nations, borders of identities that to exclude, but then reconstituting. But I'm just trying to think in terms of the icon and what you're doing with it. There was one way I heard you was there are people who try to have strict borders on what the icon is, and you're trying to expand the borders. But there's also the paradox of the icon trying to, depict the borderless, I guess, right? The non-borderable. And so there's I guess the whole, what's going on with the icon is very similar to what's going on in the debate, I guess, in terms of just geography or identity or in terms of the borders.
Well, I'm not sure about it because I think there, like, we can look at the issue of borders, I think basically in two different ways. Border as a means of separation, and borders as a means of getting into community. Like if you have border in order to cross the border and meet the other, so that's a kind of positive function of border. So like border is there actually to warn you of your own limitations, but you are manifested as a person in this crossing of borders. And icons, I think, can also do the same thing exactly by being strict in a sense of trying to express the correct faith. So like an icon cannot be an abstract painting. So it's just impossible. Because you can't just implement the whole apparatus of theology of icons, incarnation, doctrine, and all these things in already analyzed in abstract painting. But it can be church art, okay, it's another issue. And what I think is, and through these borders of icons as a specific type of image, I think icons can open this space, borderless space, which is a kind of kingdom of God. This is eschatological reality which does not know of any borders. But in all these discussions that are very kind of fashionable, identity issue, postmodern issues, and so on, I think the situation is exactly the opposite. I think there, the question of removing borders is a kind of, they put it the way that removing of borders warns us of borders again. Like, minority issues and so on, and, politically correct speech and so on, which actually, on the surface, it is there to remove borders between people. But what we get in the end is a kind of immanent border that we are aware of, but like it's just not politically correct to mention it. Take obvious examples like, the way we now, like in English in America, speak about, different race, like we say African American, or we say Native Americans, you don't say Indian or black, it's kind of not politically correct. But like, it is interiorized, this kind of racism. So like, you presuppose that there is something wrong with being black, so you don't want to mention it. But there is nothing wrong about it. So like this kind of removing the border between us actually establishes borders that are just immanent into our way of approaching the other. And that can be, I think, very, very problematic, very dangerous. So
that just points to the inevitability of border. So, but does that happen within, I guess, icon? I guess.
No,
because in a way, you're kind of pointing to the fact that there are some who try to kind of sort of canonize a certain way of doing the icon, right? And so the your own painting and the painting of the Greek painter seem to be trying to transgress the borders, to redefine the borders.
Yeah. I mean, or to just like put some new borders, for example. represent where this border is and so on, you know. But just like, I don't think we can just forget about borders, because like it's impossible within the world where we are characterized as individual beings. We are individual beings in this world. Like we will not be individual beings in the kingdom of God, but like we are still here. So like what we can do is like to try to cross, like to manifest our different identity, like that we are not defined by these borders. So like we are free from them, we can cross them, but we'll always face some borders. I think the question is just how we use borders. Is it border there to be a means of separation? So like we don't communicate, we don't have communion, like it is a way to say you are there, I'm here, so like there is not communication between us. Or is the border as a difference a way to overcome it and actually meet another human being and like accept him or her as a human being, which is like ultimate, you know, point of the whole story. And I think that's just the way, you know, like how we perceive things and how it's, I suppose, a personal fight of everyone to try to fight and face these borders, and I don't think it ever ends. But in terms of visual qualities, yes, I think it's important to push these borders exactly to see what is icon. We know theologically what is icon, but let's see what icon is when we, you know, start making it and thinking of it in this time, in our contemporary context. And I think there we have really to push these borders and do something with iconography, because just like painting the way that some painters painted in the 13th century or 10th century is meaningless. You know, it doesn't make any sense, because like we live in different circumstances, and we have to bring some of these circumstances in these icons we produce now. Otherwise, we'll just like be in a danger to take some Neoplatonic positions instead, so we don't care about, you know, this world. We just have our own story, and you know, whatever happens to the world, we don't care. We have our own approach. So that's not the Christian concept.
Following from that, in terms of some borders that canonically can't be crossed with icons, like making statues in the Orthodox tradition can't be icons, right?
You can.
No, when the Russian tradition spoke, I mean, there were certain, right, so this is my question, is that when things are canonically said, a statue of Christ is not the same as an icon. Like, it's not a prototype, or it doesn't act as a prototype, it's just an image, right? I mean, do you feel like are there any mediums, any places where you say, no, this is the way that, say, the Russians in the 16th century said, no, we draw a line here, must be two dimensions. Do you feel like there's anything?
In terms of medium.
In terms of medium, of visual art medium.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. No. I actually made proposals for this decoration of the new cathedral in Belgrade to put screens there, so that we can, instead of, you know, painting on walls that will be fixed forever, there to put screens, you know, and then we would always, you know, change images and so on. And why would it be problematic? These images will also be icons, and I don't think you can possibly justify the statement that three-dimensional representations are not icons. I mean, you can't theologically justify it. Well, maybe Russians can. It's not. They can. I mean, the question is how can they justify, you know, like representing God the Father? I mean, but I don't think three-dimensional image is also an icon. And like also, I mean, stained glass, three-dimensional sculptures, everything. I mean, manuscripts, illuminations of manuscripts. All of these things are icons. Can be icons. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Davor, of course, will be here till February. If anybody wants to kind of talk with him or interact with him or have conversation or have coffee.
Yeah, definitely. I like drinking coffee.
Yeah.